What's up everybody, Ghost Bros Gaming, Steven here. Today we're going to be going through my Labrynth deck profile. This is the deck that I've been playing competitively for quite some time now, and this is the latest build, changes all the time, but this is the build that I'm starting off the March format with. So we're going to do the deck profile, we're going to do some replays and some theory as well, so let's get right into it.
Ghost Bros Gaming.
Alright, so what is the point of this deck? How am I winning games with this deck? So right now, and I know floodgates, not everybody likes to run them. Some people prefer to play more of a pure build. It's a little bit faster, but I really do think that the floodgate version of this deck is the best version right now. The Labrynth engine is really good. It generates a lot more advantage than any other trap engine in the game, potentially except for trap tricks. But it's really, really good at generating advantage, but it's not as good as just flipping skill drain and turning your opponent's deck off entirely. And that's exactly what skill drain does in this format. There is basically no deck that is not affected by skill drain. So just having that one card that you can flip that just turns off your opponent's entire deck is just way too good not to play. So this deck is really focused around, it's essentially skill drain turbo with a suite of sphere modes and evenly matched to help you go second, but otherwise it really is skill drain turbo because you can, your traps are not affected by skill drain, your monsters are all huge, and a lot of the Labrynth cards like Big Welcome and Compulse will actually let you dodge skill drain, so you can actually still resolve a lot of your monster effects under skill drain as well. So that's sort of like the theory around this deck. I don't think it's anything crazy, but did want to just say before we get into it, I really think that running skill drain is absolutely the best way to play this deck right now. All right, let's get into the profile. So first up, we've got 2 Ariana. Basically, the reason for this is because we're running 3 sphere modes in the main deck, and so you really don't want to brick up on a ton of normal summons that you can't use. So I think 5 in a 40 card deck is the optimal ratio. Basically, it gives you a good chance to draw a normal summon, but we really don't want to draw 2 because then you have a dead card in your hand. So I believe with a 5 card opening hand, 6 normal summons gives you roughly a 16% chance of drawing 2 or more, whereas only 5 normal summons gives you a 10.5, 11% chance of drawing 2 or more. So we really want to reduce those brick chances, and we are playing a little bit of furniture, and Pot of Prosperity and Duality can get us into the engine. So we're trying 2 Ariana for now. We've got Triple Lady. This is self-explanatory. She's the best card in the deck. Nothing much more to say here. We are running the 1 Ku Clock and the 1 Chandraglier. As I mentioned, I hate not being able to get into engine in this deck. So even if you draw the best floodgates and everything else, if you don't draw into any engine, you're in big trouble. And so I really engine can get you into the cards you need, but the other general cards you need cannot get you into engine. So I really like to be able to get into engine. So I'm running the 1 Chandraglier. It also has really nice interactions with Ku Clock, and Ku Clock can single-handedly win you the mirror. It enables you to set and activate any card on your opponent's turn, any normal trap card that is. So I still think this card is way too good not to play. And then we've got the 1 Garnet, the queen of being wherever I need her not to be. Lovely. We have to play her because she's just too good not to play. However, she really sucks to draw. She's basically useless in the hand. And then she always seems to get banished off of Runic or Kashtira banishes from the top of the deck. So next up, we've got our draw power. So we are on 3 Prosperity and 3 Duality. Being able to dig 9 is just way too good not to play in this deck. I was definitely coping with Extrav for a long time because I didn't want to shell out for the Prosperities, and I think if you don't have the money to spend on the Prosperities, you can definitely get by with Extrav, but Prosperity, especially post side, just lets you dig for the card you need. So if you draw into your Solemn Judgments, you can dig for a skill drain, or you could dig for if you're going second, you could dig for a sphere mode or an evenly matched. And on top of that, you can duality pick up a prosperity and use the prosperity, but you can't do that with Extrav, since Extrav has to be used at the start of your main phase. So you can't duality into Extrav in the same way. So I really think, my online ELO ranking with this deck went up like 200 points as soon as I started playing prosperity. If you can afford it, I think is absolutely the best choice in the deck. The one Labrynth, I think this is still really good in the mirror. It is kind of a brick if you draw it. You really just want to be opting into it, but this straight up wins the mirror if you can get this to stick on board. So I'm still running the one Lord. So I'm just tired of losing to things like Duster and Lightning Storm. And this also helps you get into Eradicator really fast as well. And it synergizes with Eradicator in that it's the perfect tribute for it, so you can just summon him, set the Eradicator off of his effect, and then tribute him for the Eradicator, which is really sick. So yeah, I'm running one of these in the main. It also helps you get into Engine. Ignore these lava golems. These are 3 sphere modes. The reason we go for sphere mode is most decks in this format are definitely putting up 3 monsters. Going second in this deck is really hard if you don't draw this. I was really liking main deck evenly matched, which is still in here, but a lot of people are starting to play around it. So Brandon's starting to play around it with Expulsion. Other decks are starting to play around it by putting up an Omni Negate, or like Brandon again puts up Dragoons. So it's getting harder and harder to go second with just main deck evenly matched. And duality will make it so that you can't special summon. So Lava Golem you cannot use if you've used duality. However, sphere mode does not have that restriction since he is a true normal summon. So 3 sphere mode, I just don't have those yet. Other going second cards, this card still goes crazy if you resolve it going second. It's also a normal trap, so it makes your ladies live. So I think this card is still really, really good. This card just absolutely destroys trap tricks. They'll do their whole wombo combo. They don't really have any omnis, and then you just drop this on them in game 1, and that's pretty much GG. They've just lost too much advantage at that point. We've got 3 skill drain. This card is like the best floodgate in this format, no question. If you put this up on Kashtira, you are probably winning that game, to be honest. They really can't summon many beat sticks. Like they can get in a Rise Heart potentially, but this is really, really hard to out. Just watch out for the fact that they can, if they make a Shangri Era in the standby phase, even under skill drain, they can attempt to activate the effect. It will not resolve, but that will proc the field spell so that they can pop this. So if you have a way to out the Shangri Era prior to the standby phase, definitely do that to keep your skill drain resolved on board. Which usually I would say isn't an issue. This deck has a pretty good matchup into Kashtira in my opinion. For the Labrynth traps, we're running 3-3. I know some people are starting to cut the welcomes down to 2, just because, once you see one and you're recycling it, you really don't want another one. But I really think that this, you just need to see Engine in this deck. You just have to see Engine or you're gonna lose. And so I think running 3-3 is still the proper amount. And a lot of times, if you can discard one of these off of the Chandraglier, off the furniture, getting 2 of these in sequence, in cycles, is actually really good, because if you pitch it and then set another one, perhaps, and then you remove, so let's say the next turn you use the Welcome Labrynth, if you remove something, then you can actually just set this one since it was already in the graveyard. So you can actually start looping them and accruing a lot of advantage that way. So I'm still on 3. I think 3 welcomes is the correct call. 1 Daruma, just because I don't want to lose to random big bungus unaffected towers like Ignisters and stuff like that. It's also pretty good against Kashtira, flipping all their stuff face down. Also, it's really good against trap tricks because none of their stuff, a lot of their monsters, are unaffected by trap effects. So Daruma helps with that because then they have to send them because they remain face up. So this is really good if you're going second into trap tricks and you can't get the skill drain up. One thing to note, this deck, in my opinion, just eats trap tricks alive just because of skill drain. So little known thing, I actually had to call a judge just to prove to my opponent last week. But basically, if skill drain is already up on the board and you have and someone summons a monster that is unaffected by card effects, since Skill Drain was already live on the board when that card was summoned, it actually is affected. So it doesn't ever get its effects because Skill Drain is already resolved. So that said, if they summon something and you chain Skill Drain, you do not get the same thing because the monster is on the board already with its effect that says unaffected. So against Trap Tricks, you basically want to flip this ASAP because if they put a level 4 on board and then link off into Sarah and then you chain this, you won't, like, the Sarah will be live and it will be unaffected by this card. But if you just shotgun this against Trap Tricks, as soon as they put a level 4 monster on board before they link into Sarah, when they summon the Sarah, it will be unaffected, or it'll be under Skill Drain. So little known interaction, maybe it's known, I don't know, but it's helpful to note that in a lot of cases you can actually, even things that are unaffected by card effects, you can still get under Skill Drain. I'm running the 1D barrier. It's less important to me to draw this since I'm running the Ku Klok, so I can just shotgun this once I find out my opponent is playing something that would get hurt by this. So it's really not a huge deal. I'm maining the Eradicator. This is just way too good in the mirror and against Trap Tricks not to play. And it's just so free in this deck since all your bodies are pretty big and they're all darks. So I still like the Eradicator in the main deck. You can side it out if you don't need it, and it's only a 1-of, so you're probably not going to brick on it. The 1 tear is just really, really versatile removal. You can remove a lot of things. If there's continuous cards, they won't resolve, which is really good. We're running Triple Compulse. I still think this card is goated in the deck. It's really good. It's not as good against Kashtira, but you can compulse your own monsters to dodge around evenly matched and things like that. So yeah, it's just a really versatile card, also not a hard once per turn. And then I am on the Dogmatica Punishment. I have stopped coping with the Smokescreen extra deck. It hasn't really come up at all, so we're going to try out Dogmatica Punishment and see how that goes for us. I mean, it does net you a ton of advantage if you resolve it. So that's it for the main deck. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, since the Dogmatica Punishment thing is a recent change for me, I don't have this entirely built out yet, but the 2 Lingaribo, so you can link off the Ibli. We're playing a few links, so Muckraker, the Nightmares, and the Bucephalus. I'll probably run 2 of these once my other one comes in. These actually came up. My opponent on Friday expulsioned a Jinzo onto my board, so I was playing against Brandon, and he was going first post side, expulsioned a Jinzo onto my board, and I was able to link it off using these. So I normal summoned Ariana and then linked off into Muckraker. I didn't end up winning the game, but I was able to out the Jinzo because I have these links. So I think like these don't come up a ton, but they are useful for removing cards from the board from time to time. The Bucephalus, for anybody who doesn't know what it does, its sole purpose is to be a high attack value monster for punishment that also sends Garura. Our other punishment targets, we've got 2 Entis and eventually 2 Garura. The 5-headed dragon is taking the second Garura's place for now, but I'll definitely be running 2 Garura once the other one comes in. Just a couple of XZs here, running the Hope Harbinger just in case it comes up. 2 Aggregator, again, as punishment targets. The 1 Zeus, I am running this basically purely to give Kashtira something to look at and banish in my extra deck that they think is valuable but actually isn't. I don't want them to banish my punishment targets, and since there's 2 of all of them, they may occasionally think that this is actually the highest value target. Remains to be seen if that actually works in practice, but I did see some people talking about it, and I thought it was an interesting call. And then the 1 Omega just helps recycle stuff as a punishment target as well. All right, and then last up, we've got the side deck. So I'm running 1 additional Lord. Again, I just don't want to lose to blowouts, and I think this card is just like really, really good at speeding you up and getting you to the traps you need. So Lord is really, really good. I like running 2. I just like not having to worry about because you can kind of play around evenly matched to an extent, right? Like you just a lot of times, and I'll show some replays after this. You'll just keep your skill drain, and then just use your big welcome, use your welcome, get those in the grave, get your cards bounced, draw a few cards, and then just leave your floodgate up. So you can play around evenly matched to an extent, but if somebody hits you with a duster, it's really, really hard to play around. So this just helps prevent that. The triple Solemn Judgment, gotta play this, self-explanatory. This will help you in every single situation. Yeah, normal summon of a Denko, Solemn Judgment. Your opponent eradicators you in the mirror, Solemn Judgment. They drop a Duster on you, Solemn Judgment. Evenly matched Solemn Judgment. Yeah, so gotta play it. This card I was experimenting with on Friday and actually went crazy for me. When you draw this card against Kashtira and Branded, they do not have a good time. This is basically a pass turn for Branded for the most part. So yeah, I was having a really fun time with this card. It also, again, protects your back row against things like Duster and Lightning Storm. Because if you can get your opponent to set those cards, by the time it gets back around to your turn, you can usually pop stuff with Lady. The one Full Force Virus, this went crazy on Friday as well. You only have to tribute a monster with 2,000 or more attack, so you can actually tribute your Arianas for this, which is fantastic. And I destroyed a Sprite player with this. I got 3 cards out of his hand, and that was basically a scoop. So I side this in against Floandries. I've cooked Floandries with this before. So yeah, really good card. I think it's worth it at 1, so considering you can set it and activate it from the deck with the Ku Klok combo. One Duster really helps you in the mirror, really helps you against trap tricks, and also really good against Branded, in my opinion. A lot of Branded's interaction, if they don't go down the Dragoon route, is tied to back row, right? So they might have a Branded Beast, they might have the set Branded in red for the Chimera. If the first thing you do is just drop a Duster on them, most of their interaction that you care about is gone, right? Like you can just sort of play around the Mirror Jade, set your Compulse, and then Compulse the Mirror Jade the next turn. And really what kills us with Branded is when we set 4, and then they Branded Beast or Chimera us in the end phase and we lose a lot of advantage. Duster helps cure all of those problems, so I really like Duster as a 1-of. More anti-branded. We got the 3 Ash. This is also insane in the mirror, so your opponent, the mirror is basically just a Eradicator shotgun who can get to Eradicator first, and this helps keep your opponent off of it because they can't, this is something to respond to, so they can't chain Lady to their trap effects, and it also keeps potentially them from getting a Lady on board, and we all know what this does to Branded, so I think 3 Ash is really good in this format. And then some alternate floodgates. We've got the 2 Rivalry. I actually think this is better than Gozen now, just because Branded is a really tough matchup, and this literally kills them. And Sword Soul really isn't that prevalent in this meta, so I don't think this is has many downsides. Same thing with Floandries. And this is also actually surprisingly good against Kashtira. And you've got Kashtira covered with Gozen, the Imperial Iron Wall, and Skill Drain, because it just eats that deck. So I think these floodgates are pretty good. The Imperial Iron Wall is also pretty solid. So yeah, this is the side deck. You just side in your floodgates as you need them, but really Skill Drain is just like the hard carry floodgate. It's really all you need because it stops every deck in its tracks. And if you get Skill Drain to stick on board, you're usually winning the game. So that's it for the deck profile. We will look through some replays now. Okay, so in this replay, we're a good bit into the game, but I didn't want to bore you guys with the entire replay, but basically, I've been grinding this guy down with just Skill Drain and a Lady for a while. He's playing Kashtira. But what's really interesting here is the high damage potential that the deck actually has that people don't really realize all the time. So one of the ways that Lord of the Heavenly Prison is really good is if he sticks on board, you can actually attack with him and then bounce him with Big Welcome. So summon like a Lady or something, bounce him with Big Welcome, and then trigger his effect immediately to special summon himself back out, which gives him another attack. So in this particular case, I was able to pull that off and just like OTK this guy out of nowhere, right? And I actually didn't even have to resummon him, but I did it anyway. But yeah, you can see like that allows you to take someone from 8k to 0 like instantaneously, which is a lot of times people will think that they can just sort of pass it back to you and you just do like 3,500, 4,000 damage and pass it back to them. But under certain conditions, the deck can actually put out quite a bit of damage in a single turn. Okay, so this video is another one, sort of how to play around evenly matched. You're gonna get hit with evenly matched, it's just a fact of life. However, this is why I think Skill Drain is so good. Like, if you get evenly matched, you remove as much of your stuff from the board as you can, right? So I get Ash here, that's unfortunate. We'll get the Big Welcome. We'll get the draw off the Ariana to recur additional value. Then we will get evenly matched, but we'll end up keeping the Skill Drain And as you can see, like as a Kashtira player, okay, the first time he activates a monster effect, we just activate skill drain. And from here, we're kind of off to the races on the beatdown game. I do think this guy kind of misplays because he could have just made a Shangri-Ira there, and then he could have popped the skill drain off the field spell. Just a little known thing, they can still pop off the field spell if the Shangri-Ira activates its effect even under skill drain, because it just says activate. Why the card's worded that way, I don't know, it kind of sucks, but just look out for that. Try to remove that Shangri-Ira before the standby phase if you can, so then they can't pop your skill drain. We Eradicator him for spells, he's going to surrender there. Okay, so the mirror can actually be, I really enjoy the Labrynth mirror. This one is one that showcases why the furniture can be so good in the mirror. So this is his end phase, and so I'm going to furniture combo him. He can't do anything because he's set all his cards, and then I'm going to hand loop him for 1, so there goes his Lord. He has no more destruction, and he can't set the EEV off the Lord either. So he's already off the back foot there, and I'm just getting out ahead of him. This is post side, so I don't know why he kept skill drain in. It doesn't really do anything for him. But one thing to remember, again, I'll dodge the skill drain there in order to set the Eradicator, I'll dodge the skill drain with the big welcome. So then he's like, I have the Eradicator resolved, so he's already like really down bad. He's going to try to play it out. One thing to note when you're playing the mirror is you just really need to be conscious of giving your opponent opportunities to chain Lady. That's like one of the biggest things in the mirror that I see people making mistakes on is, I know I did it once there to get a set, but basically you always want to try to not give your opponent the opportunity to chain Lady to one of your spell trap or one of your trap activations. And so this gets really interesting because he sets the Waking off the Lady, and so I reset Erad and I actually bounce the Waking to his hand because Waking has to be destroyed on the field to get its effect. And so then I bounce the Waking in his end phase to the hand, and then I Erad him for traps again, and then obviously he surrenders because the advantage is just too much at that point. Here's another mirror match replay. This is one where evenly match just goes crazy for me. And I also, skillfully draw into the EEV as well. And he actually activates his Lord. Don't do that either, because just wait till the main phase too, because I was able to actually get both value off of both of the evenly matched there. So yeah, at this point we're pretty well ahead in this game because we're going to be able to Eradicator him in the end phase. And so one of the things you want to avoid doing is, again, letting your opponent accrue value. So we want to let him do the Ariana search, and then once he declares that he's going to special summon the Lady, then we chain the Erad. So he can't chain the Lady to the Erad. And so that anything that he gets and sets off the Ariana, we also make sure that we kill with the Erad. So at this point, we're pretty well ahead. Another note in the mirror, I think most people know this, but turboing out your field spell can also help a lot. The field spell just gets you a lot of additional value in the mirror. And so yeah, you see we pop the Lady. And at that point we're starting to get all our effects, so he goes ahead and surrenders.